All right, so normally when I record these videos, I do about 150 takes and attempts, and I never quite get it right. With this video, I'm going to just record, talk, and post it. Um, my goal of this video is to kind of give a breakdown of my life story because I feel like I interact with quite a few people, but not a lot of people know where I'm, like me, as far as where I come from as a person and things like that. So we're gonna start at a very young age. Well, basically at birth. My mom had me at 16. She was 16, obviously. She had me at 16 and still lived with my grandma at the time. And then when I believe my mom was between 19 and 20-ish, 18 and 20-ish, we moved into a small house right down the street from my grandma. Um, Most of the time I'd go over to my grandparents because my mom had to work or finish school at the time. And so spent a lot of time with my grandparents from like a baby all the way up until, I don't know, 5 or 6 maybe. And then my mom got married to my stepdad when I was about 5 years old. And that's when we kind of moved from that house into another house in Modesto, or a smaller apartment in Modesto. And I don't remember much of that time as far as like the living in the house. The stepdad thing, um, he was kind of a bully at the time, and this isn't talking anything bad on him because I love him to death. He was kind of a bully sometimes, so, and I was a very like shy, kind of timid kid, so I just didn't respond well to that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, obviously I got over it, and then fast forward, they were married for about 7 years till I was 12. I ended up having a sister. My sister's 5 years younger than me, so she was born basically right around the time they got married, right before they got married, a couple months before they got married. My sister was born, and yeah, so then I had a little sister at the time. They got married. We did that whole thing, and we moved around a couple of times, mainly in houses that my grandparents owned, and then my grandparents now own the house that I live in still today. And my, let's see, that was 14 years ago. About 14 years ago, we moved into this house. That's when my youngest brother was born. And yeah, so he's about to be 14. And yeah, so we've lived here, and they got divorced when I was about 12. And so from 12 to 14, I went back and forth with my siblings my from my mom's house to who I called him my dad at the time still. And I'd go back and forth with them, and we'd kind of stay on the same schedule. Around 14-ish, 15, he and I started butting heads a lot more. I wanted to do more things as a teenager, and he wasn't really for letting me have all that kind of fun. And again, no bad talk on him because kind of molded me to how I am today. And so yeah, since I didn't get to go out much and we kind of just butted heads, I ended up moving back in with my mom around 14-ish and stayed, maybe 15, and stayed here. I've been just with her since. I still talk to him just about every day. But yeah, so that part grew out. Rewind back to, or restart back to where when I was 14. I was in, going through high school and middle school, always played sports. I started football when I was 7, started basketball when I was 8, and track when I was like 9. Those are my 3 main sports. I played t-ball when I was like 5 years old before I even started kindergarten. That was really all that there was as far as the baseball side of things, just that 1 year or 1 season of t-ball. I wasn't really into baseball that much. So yeah, football caught my interest really early. I was about 7, like I said, and I remember seeing an ad for the new, signing up in the newspaper. We were having breakfast, and my mom said, "No way." And that's at the time where my stepdad was like, "Well, let him play," and that's where I said there's no bad blood, because there's a lot of things that he helped push me to do, even though we did butt heads a lot of the times. Not a lot of the times, but we did butt heads. And so, yeah, I ended up signing up for football at 7 years old. And I'll tell you what, the first 2 weeks are called Hell Week for a reason. They're just conditioning. and I hated them. Within the first week of having pads on, I remember running laps, and I was the kid who, my belt wasn't cut or anything. It was all the way down to my knees. My pants were kind of loose. My hip pads were all kind of twisted and out. My shoulder pads would flap up. So we were running a lap one time, and I remember I was absolutely whooped, 7 years old. And I'm running this lap, and I just remember hearing my shoulder pads flap up and hit my helmet, and it's like kind of echoing. I'm crying. My mom's in the little bleachers watching us practice. I remember running by on the backside, holding my pants up, and I asked her to stop. I stopped by her, and I was like, I want to quit. And she said, no, you signed up. You got to do it. You know, you signed up. You don't have to play next year, but you're committed to this year. So that's what happened. I committed to that year, and of course I had the best time of my life, obviously, from at 7 years old. And so then I ended up playing another 11 or 12 years after that. But yeah, that was my experience starting football. Absolutely hated it. Sorry I'm jumping all around as far as my life, but like I said, I'm just kind of spitting it out. I figured not many people know my whole kind of life story, so I figured I'd get it out there. My stepdad was very supportive with all of my sports. He saw all the potential in me, which was one thing that I loved, because for whatever reason, I thrive when somebody else sees potential in me, and it just gives me a little bit more encouragement and motivation to keep going forward. But then, yeah, so I played a couple of years, Pop Warner, went to school in series, nothing too crazy. And then my mom switched me to a private school at the same time. She also switched when my sister started kindergarten, she switched her there the year after I'd been there already, or maybe 2 years after I'd been there already. And so my sister started her kindergarten year there and broke her arm the second day. We stayed there for about half a year, but at that point I had switched from playing football with the Series Cowboys, and I'd moved to the Houston Huskies and been playing with Tyler, met the Mays and some of the other families, and obviously Tyler, if you guys don't know, is my best friend, my longest friend I've ever had. So yeah, so they kind of influenced us to get out to Houston. I kept playing in Houston, and about halfway through 6th grade, I realized, you know what, can I just go to school out there? Like, I didn't like going to the private school. I was the only black kid there. I was the only black kid for the most part in Houston, but I was really the only black kid at that private school. And yeah, so then I ended up, my mom let my sister and I switch over to Houston middle of 6th grade. We got that rolling, played Pop Warner all through 6th grade, I started track actually in 5th grade at that private school. It was cool because we could do that. Basketball, I played a year prior to the private school because you couldn't start till you were in 5th grade to play on the team. And so I started playing with like a little city league here in Modesto, and then transferred over to the school team and played city league at that time. And then we got into travel ball a little bit later for basketball. I think 7th grade was the year Tyler and I first started travel ball. Tyler was playing basketball in Salida. I tried the little Salida league out. And then after that, they were like, hey, there's a travel ball league. You want to join? So I joined that. Did quite a bit of travel ball from 7th, 8th, and 9th grade for the most part. We played all summer. Thankful for the Mays for always supporting me and helping bring me along on those trips as well, just due to the fact that my mom had to work quite a bit. So the traveling stuff was definitely helped out by that family, the Mays. And so yeah, there's that. Sorry, I'm about 10 minutes in and just rambling, but there's a lot to it. I mean, I'm 23 years old, so if I can get a minute per year, we'll get a 20-minute video in here, 23-minute video. Let's see, fast forward through middle school. I mean, I was just kind of learning things, learning how a different school worked, meeting new people. Obviously, I had friends because the football team, most of the kids went there. People kind of knew me. But it was kind of a difficult transition at first, but it was good. As far as high school was kind of a breeze. I just maintained my grades to continue playing sports, played football, basketball, and track. Freshman year was tough as far as football because I got asked to move up to JV right away. and the rest of my teammates who I'd played the last 5 years with were going to be on the freshman team. So it was kind of a hard decision for me to make, but at the same time, it was the choice I wanted to make to go up. So I did play a year without most of my good friends, made some new friends, got some good experience, things like that, which was awesome. Sophomore year, same kind of thing all of my sports were pretty much the same as far as after freshman year, it was freshman basketball got moved up to JV as well. Tyler and I both played JV basketball, and then track was basically all you either run JV or you run varsity. So I ran varsity all through high school, and yeah, that was kind of that. My favorite sport by far was football. I didn't really like basketball. Around junior year, I was like, all right, do I have to play basketball? Junior year football season wasn't necessarily as ideal as I wanted it to be, just because, I don't know, the dynamics of the team were different. It was an amazing team, so much talent, athleticism, but the dynamics of the team just wasn't quite the same gel, I guess, looking back compared to my senior season, which was absolutely, probably the greatest memories most of us will have. And I know it sounds kind of strange to say that, high school memory will be the greatest memory you have, but, that's when you're really with a majority of your friends. You get to experience a lot of things and something you'll look back to. So yeah, that's football in that. But getting out of high school, going to college, that was a difficult transition as well, because let's see, for school, I was going to school to be a physical therapist. I didn't quite know that if I wanted to be a physical therapist. I just knew they made decent money and they made their own schedules. So it sounded nice. But at the same time, like I said, for high school, I just passed those classes so I can make sure I had the right grades to keep playing sports and then get into a college. But I didn't really want to do the physical therapy stuff. I didn't like the classes. The school that I went to just rained too much, so I didn't like that. I was running track, so I originally went there for track as a walk-on, which is why I chose Humboldt. And it was a good experience overall. Like, I'd definitely go back and visit because I loved the environment. It was tough to live there and be as productive as I'd like to be. So we got out of that after playing. I did track in the fall, which is technically the off season, so mainly just practice. And then I actually jumped at their open meet. I wasn't part of the track team anymore at that point. I had let the coaches know around November, December, right before winter break, that I wasn't going to be running track anymore. And I still ended up coming back from the winter break, and they had an open meet for anybody and everybody. It was basically a practice meet for their team. And I jumped and ended up getting second, which was pretty cool. Clico! Sorry, dog's barking. All clear, baby. Thank you. Bloopers. Anyways, yeah, so I did that, and that was pretty neat. But the jumping coach just wasn't up to par. And as far as what I heard about scholarships, the reason I went there as a walk-on was because they were talking about sophomore year scholarship, and I wasn't getting that. So, hold on one sec. Clico, enough! I'm not even cutting that out. So, anyways, yeah, I ended up backing out from the track team because I just wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't fun because the coaching felt like I was coaching myself, which is kind of what happened through most of high school track. Nothing against any of my high school track coaches, but because I was kind of the top athlete in that sense, I was kind of expected to coach the others rather than be coached. They just assumed I knew everything and I would get better over time, which is why I didn't develop even more. Kind of the same thing with football, to be honest. That's really the tough part about the high school program that I went to, was that only a couple coaches really cared about the development of players. Not very many did. it was kind of just like, let's see what the record we could get. And because, like I said, I was a decent player, I didn't get as much attention as far as developing and becoming better. It was more of, let's use the skill set and make it work. Kind of work to our system, to say the least. But anyways, yeah, so then I went and I decided, after not doing track, I was going to try out for the football team at Humboldt, and tried out, went through all the spring camp, ended up making the team. And at that point, I was tired of the schedule of 6 a.m. practice. We're doing conditioning, weights early in the morning. Then you have classes all day, you have film during the day, you have practice after that. And that was just the off season. And so I had done that for, like I said, that was at that point my 12th year of football, I believe. And so I'd done that for plenty of time, and it wasn't the fact that I didn't know how to do it or didn't want to do the discipline factor of it. I was just burnt out of roll over, do this. I kind of like working on my own schedule, which is why I was intrigued by the physical therapy prior. But yeah, so I got out of that, decided I was going to maybe try playing somewhere else. And I went and tried out at a Delta Junior College. I was there for maybe 3 weeks, and I was playing with some guys that I met on the All-Star team. And I was like, you know what? It's really not like, it's not the game. I just don't have the same passion for it anymore. I don't have the same love and same drive. So I just stopped doing that. Then, because I came back, my mother insisted that I still did school, although I'm a terrible student as far as work ethic for school. So I went and started a semester at NJC, and needless to say, I don't know when finals were. I turned in maybe half of the homework through the semester and didn't take the finals. That's bad to say. I know I paid for those classes, but at the same time, I'm not a good student sitting there and reading a book about English and breaking it down. I know how to use proper grammar better than most people for the most part. And I'm not saying that I'm better than most people because of the way I speak. Those classes just seemed irrelevant to me as far as what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, why am I taking an English class that has nothing to do with maybe starting a business in the future and being a personal trainer, being a professional bodybuilder? Those things were kind of already brewing because I was doing the gym thing at that time. And actually at about 19 was when I started competing. So that was kind of the reason I stopped taking the classes, because I was going to the gym all the time during that semester that I was supposed to be going to the classes. I did take a weight room class just so that way I could have the excuse to work out. And then I'd only show up to that class some days because it was a gym. And I was like, all right, I could show up to lift weights. That's nothing. And yeah, so then about November of 2000 what year are we in? 2020 already. Goodness gracious. November 2016. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's right. November 2016, I did my first bodybuilding competition, or men's physique competition. 19 years old, teen division. Ended up winning. At the time, I was working for my grandparents. And then shortly after that show, I ended up applying for InShape and Turlock. Was a salesperson at InShape and Turlock for most of the early 2017. Ended up getting into it with my manager. Not getting into it. We just had a disagreement. I didn't like the way she was managing, so I basically just, let her know that I was no longer going to continue working there because I don't like being disrespected, and that, it's just kind of on a moral basis, and didn't like the disrespect I was getting or that I felt like I was getting. So I decided to leave. And at that point I was still working out, still doing all that. Took about a month, let's see. Oh, right from there, I went back to work for my grandparents. Thankfully I had them with a sign company and I could go and work for them. They could use my help. I went and worked for them all summer, from about April all through the summer. And then around August, I decided to work for a family's business, which was a moving company. I did that for about 8 months, and I enjoyed the amount of money I made, but I didn't enjoy the person I was becoming during that time. I was negative. I stopped going to the gym. Like, honestly, I was getting ready to do a competition. And even during the first part of while working there, and then my motivation was going down, I kind of had a shoulder tweak, so I decided not to. I decided to take a week off from the gym, and then it turned into a month, and then that month turned into 6 months. And all that time I'm working at this company, right, and just feel myself, dwindling down as far as where I want to be. And let's see, I ended up stopping working there in May of 2018, went back to work for my grandparents again over the summer. I kind of use them as a fallback a lot of the times, just because it was like, all right, this is an intermediate of finding what I really want to do. That's my biggest belief, is being happy and finding what you truly want to do. So I was able to help them while finding those things, finding myself. Worked for them for a while. I was in a very bad depression at that point from coming out of working at that other job, bringing myself into a bad mental state, losing a lot of weight from not working out, not eating enough. Just all those kinds of factors fell together. And now, after that, I worked for my grandparents for quite a while, actually, all the way up until through Christmas of 2018. And then I applied for InShape, and I got the job at InShape very early February. And I was at InShape from February of 2019 all the way until the pandemic started. I worked the front desk. It was definitely the happiest I've ever been. I was back in the gym. I gained all the weight that I had lost back and some. I was in the best physical shape I've ever been. And really it started with transitioning from, during that depression time, it was a lot of soul searching, finding things that would help my focus, mentally help me, become a better person. So I was looking into myself, understanding myself, finding out about my zodiac sign, things like that, so I can understand why my habits are the way they are, why I act the way I act. That worked, and I ended up switching to a plant-based diet, getting myself kind of really out of the depression, fully based on the plant-based diet. Never went and did any therapy, talked to not very many people about what I was going through until after. Now, I actually didn't talk to anybody about what I was going through till after. And even quite a while after, people knew I was kind of in a weird state, but I don't think they understood the depression I was in. But now I'm honestly the happiest I've ever been, even with this whole quarantine. Of course, I'd love to be in the gym. My motivation to go to the gym is through the roof. My motivation to work out here in my garage is zero. I love the atmosphere of the gym. I love being in the gym. It's fun for me. That's kind of my sanctuary. So as far as those things, and now where I see myself moving forward in the future, after that crazy 20 plus years of history, it was rambled and scattered and all over the place. But now I see myself, I started this clothing company in late November. What's up? Thank you. I'll come get it. And so since late November, it hasn't done as well as I've wanted it to. And that's why I'm okay with that. At this point, I'm in a different stage with my mind. This is sitting in the back 15%. I will put 100% into this at another time, especially when the gyms open back up. My personal training stuff is another thing that I'm missing a lot, besides just being out of the gym and being able to work out. I really love being able to help people, especially giving that information. I'm not really good at verbally giving detailed information. I'm better at doing it and then breaking it down from there and showing people, which is why I love hands-on personal training. I'm not really the best online trainer for that in that sense. But yeah, so as far as learning what I've got going on for the next part, I've set the shirts, the clothing company in the background, because right now that's not my focus. My focus is building my brand, building my name, expanding, getting back into the gym, networking, meeting new people, and honestly getting a better connection with the people that I do already know. That's the main part of the reason that I'm doing this video, is so that way people understand that, you know, I'm really just putting everything out there. There's some stuff I'm sure I missed. I kind of gave a brief breakdown, although it was 20 minutes of the last, you know, 20 years of my life. But yeah, so now moving forward, my goal is to open a gym eventually, become a professional bodybuilder in the classic physique division, and yeah, just grow. Honestly, I'd love to be a sponsored athlete. I know that sounds very like egotistical or egomaniac, whatever. But I've always, that's kind of been something that's been intriguing to me. The idea of being not necessarily the face of a brand, but having the support from a brand with something that I'm doing and something that I'm passionate about. I think that also plays into the fact that, like I said before, just somebody seeing the potential in me gives me more of a fire and more of a motivation. It's just kind of the way I'm wired, although I definitely have my own wires as far as, you know, my own fire as far as I want to be a pro bodybuilder. So if no one believes in that, I don't care. I don't need somebody to believe in me to get there. I want to open a gym. I don't need anybody to believe that I can open a gym. I believe in myself that I can do those things. But when I do have those other positive forces, it does feel good. But that's also where I make sure that the negative forces, I block them out. I really do, because so many people will say, oh, that's dumb, you'll never be a pro bodybuilder. Okay, thank you. So I try not to get too high on the, you know, the yeses and the people that agree or people that support me, because that keeps me from avoiding getting too low from the people that are shooting me down and saying the negative stuff. But yeah, so I am gonna start making sure I post more YouTube videos. This video is gonna go on YouTube for the sake of the time. I might chop it up for Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, but I might also just link this. So if you guys are seeing me here, if you wanna check out my TikTok, it is fit_Dre 2.0. If you wanna check out my Twitter, it is 10devo10. I might be switching that soon, so you might just type in my whole name. That'll be your best bet. It's the same as my YouTube name. If you want to check out my Instagram, that is all fitness related. And it will be more fitness related once the gyms open back up. Because like I said, I prefer to have the gym to do more of the tutorial type workouts. And my Instagram is fit_Dre97. So I'm gonna try to figure out if I can link those in here. Otherwise, I might just put them in the comments below so you guys can check them out. Thank you guys all for stopping by and watching. I'm sorry for the length and the time duration, but if you're still here, I really appreciate you. Thanks again. Have a good day.